Just tuning in to yourself. Just feeling your feet on the floor. Dropping down into the body. It sure is kind of a loner. We get the use of it. We get the loan of it. So it behooves us to take care of it. Under following the exhale down into the body. And gently moving as if we were kelp underwater. Being amazed at how the spine moves. Maybe moving a little from side to side. Rolling the shoulders backwards. Noticing if that is encouraging to take a deeper breath. Extending your arms out a little. Kind of wiggling. Noticing if you take a deeper breath as you move a bit. Almost like making a little more room for the breath. And if anything I say during this 10 minutes doesn't fit, don't feel like you have to do it or anything. Just take this at your own speed, at your own pace, and what you're comfortable with. And slowly moving into standing. If you choose, or you can stay seated. And it's best to move out into the aisles so you have a little more space. And the most fun thing is to just shake. Let's do that a bit. Just look at the floor or close your eyes. And just see how fun this is. Smiling, of course, is always helpful. Feeling the breath. You could lift your left arm up with your palm toward the floor. And with your right hand, make a fist. And starting at the top of your hand, bang up your arm as hard as you want till you get to the shoulder. And then turn your palm up. Open your right hand and kind of slap that arm on the way down. Right, the sound is great, isn't it? Let's come up the arm again. And then making a fist, hit the lung point here. It's under my, underneath. And then extending the right arm. Make a fist with your left and come down the top of the left arm. And when you get to the top of the hand, flip the hand over, open the right hand and come back up, slapping. How good this feels. And then come for a fist again and come to that lung point. And rotating the shoulders backwards. Bring out your arms if there's room, rotating your whole shoulder. I mean, aren't these bodies amazing? And then forward. Right, and stretching your arms out any which way. Bending your head as you stretch. See what it's like if you put your palms up and stretch. Coming down into Wu Chi, which is putting one palm in front of the other, in front of your hara, your dantian, which is about 2 inches below your navel. Having your knees be soft. Feeling your connection through the floor, down to the earth, and then up through your body, through the top of your head, right up to the sky. With that beautiful moon. Gently rocking a bit forward and back on your feet. Bending your knees as you rock forward. And then next time you rock forward, bring your arms up. If you're gathering energy, but then putting your palms toward your body, bring them down the front of your body, bending your knees and then up again. With an inhale and turning your palms toward this conception meridian down the front of your body, bending your knees if that's comfortable, and up again. And it's like you're gathering energy. Just do this in your own timing and your own pacing. And then the other direction. So we're going up with an inhale and then out, bending the knees if that's comfortable. It's kind of like a butterfly. So we're a room full of butterflies. Expanding out, gathering back in. Just in time with your own breath. And bringing your hands again in front of your hara, Wu Chi position. Bending your knees a bit. Putting your tongue, the tip of your tongue on the roof of the mouth. And imagine the energy coming up your spine, over the top of your head, down the front of your body, circling up again. With gratitude for this precious life. Thank you.
So feeling into the body and really allowing ourselves to enjoy any goodness that arises. The invitation of our practice is to linger when we find nourishment. Ease, energy, interest. So for the rest of the practice period, I would invite you to linger in the experience of this body. However you feel drawn to do that, maybe in one particular area, like the breath or hearing. The body has all these clever tricks it does. It hears, it feels, it smells, it sees. So inviting you to linger in a quality of the body's experience that feels nourishing to you tonight. Might be the breath, might not be, might be something else entirely. And if the mind gets distracted by other kinds of busyness, then just come back. The goodness of this body, this being human, right here. All the clever tricks the body knows. Again, if the mind distracts us, if we find ourselves out of our bodies and more into our thinking mind, maybe in the past or the future, the invitation of our practice is just simply bow to that and return. This body, this breath, this hearing, these sensations, this present moment, this present moment, right here, right now. May all sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May we all be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May we never be separated from the joy and happiness that knows no sorrow. May we rest in equanimity, free from ignorance, free from greed, free from ill will. May all beings in every direction be happy. So, a few moments to enjoy Jeanne's cookies. Thank you, Jeanne. And greet one another, especially Tracy, who is new tonight. Blessings. Well, the theme that I chose for tonight's offering is cultivating a heart unshaken. And I have to tell you, I had a terrible time putting this together because what I wanted to do, you all were so generous and you offered all those questions a few weeks ago. There were 48 of them. And I wanted to not let it pass, to be able to respond to your 48 questions. And the more I tried, the more I just thought, well, this is all of the Dharma. This is everything we've taught for the last 25 years. How am I going to do this? Bring this discussion into one evening. And so I worked at it and I did it this way, and then I did it that way, and then I did it this way, and then I did it that way, and then I did it the other way. And anyway, it was like I've seldom worked so hard at trying to organize something. Last night I had a eureka moment, which was, Sharon, you're doing this all wrong. So tonight we are going to inquire together about cultivating a heart unshaken, with emphasis on each of those words, cultivating. One of the problems I think that we sometimes encounter when we are practicing the Dharma is that intentionally or consciously or not, we sort of hear this little voice inside that says, you're supposed to be doing this right, and furthermore, here's how to do it right, but that's not how you're doing it. And I don't know what your problem is, but you're just, maybe you should take up sewing or something, or basketball or something else, golf. So wanted to emphasize the word cultivating, that we're cultivating, I'll come back to that word in just a minute, a heart. And in Tibetan, the word for heart is the same as the word for mind. So it's really like cultivating a being in the world that is unshaken. And already we're lost, right? Because we go, well, that doesn't include me. I get shaken all the time. And, it's just like, so there we are. So cultivating, and what comes up for you when you think about the word cultivating? Anybody? What kinds of things here? So already, see, I need your help already. What?
Plowing.
Plowing.
Soil.
Time.
Time
Takes time.
takes time. What was the other one? Soil. Don't you love it that you have to plant things in dirt? That just always cracks me up. So soil, time, plowing. What else? What other kinds of things do you cultivate? What do we cultivate? I mean, obviously you're being drawn to gardening. Relationships. Cultivating relationships. Anybody have a relationship that has changed over time? Or has needed a bit of cultivating? Nurture. Kindness. Yeah. Care. What else?
Intention.
What?
Intention.
Intention. Process. Yeah. Not a one thing, not a, yeah.
Equanimity.
Patience.
Culture.
Culture. Say more about that, Jeanne.
The kind of culture that nourishes life.
Okay. So having a sort of an attitude of nourishing and also a community of
Yes.
nourishing. Okay. A culture of nourishing. Good. Okay. So maybe we can think of more, cultivating a heart unshaken, and I think about cultivating just all of the things that we're talking about. We're talking about what it has in common, but it also, sometimes we cultivate, and I was thinking about cultivating a garden, and if you're cultivating tomatoes, or you're cultivating zinnias, or you're cultivating daffodils, or you're cultivating ducks, it might be, there might be different strategies that you would need to employ in order to have process and patience and soil and all of the, all of the things that you're talking about. Well, what does it look like with daffodils? And what does it look like with radishes? And what does it look like with ducks? So we actually, and so where I was getting in trouble with my own responses to your wonderful 48 questions was that I was sort of trying to kind of fit a one size fits all response to questions that were coming from lots of different places with lots of different inquiries, wonderful questions, and yet, okay, but if you're looking at it from this direction, if it's a daffodil, then here's what you need to consider. But if you're looking at it from that direction, if it's a radish, then maybe you need to kind of look at it a little bit differently. So I decided last night, after all my intense labor, to not do any of that, and we'll do something different tonight. Which I'll tell you about in a minute. I wanted to respond to one of the questions, and then we'll go on to the others. But here's a quote that was, I put part of this in the, I can put this down, in the blurb that went out on the web. Everything can be included into our vast happiness. There is nothing in our experience that has to be treated as an enemy. That's a pretty tall order, That's a pretty tall order. Lama Tenpa goes on to say, it is only a temporary confusion that creates a sense of separation from and antagonism toward our environment. Therefore, this view asserts, even if we find ourselves in a situation in which we feel antagonism or separation, we are capable of resolving that situation into loving kindness. Another quote from Ajahn Chah, he says, the Dhamma has to be found by looking into your own heart and seeing that which is true and that which is not, that which is balanced and that which is not balanced. I had a really lovely experience. I've told you about it sometimes in a talk. When I was working as a therapist, I used to go to these monthly training sessions, and we had this fabulous teacher who was a bit of a loose cannon at times. And one time he was doing something or other up there in the front of the room. I was sitting next to my friend Sue, and he really did something that was extremely, in my humble opinion, unskillful. He was not very kind to the person he was supervising. And I kind of nudged Sue and I said, look at that. Look at that. Did you see that? And she nudged me back and she said, a momentary lapse, which I loved, just like, and it's true for all of us. We have these momentary lapses. And Lama Tenpa is pointing to that, where he says, it isn't like the lapses are somehow problems so much as information. And so in our practice, we're invited to use all of the Dhamma. This was where I was getting in trouble, to use all the Dhamma, but then to be, Pat, a few weeks ago, spoke about being an artist. Tracy was just talking to me about being an artist and using the materials, using the teachings, and then finding a way that it works with this. And it works for me with this, which might be different from how it works for you. Okay. Who among us, could I have a show? No. Have a show of hands? No show of hands. Could I have a show of hands of anybody who has never wanted to hurt someone?
Today,
In speech or in thought or in action, is there anyone who has never felt like you wanted to hurt someone and you really didn't care what the consequences were, at least in your mind? Any hands here? Whoop, no hands there either. I think we can begin to kind of come into relationship with that question when we realize that this path is not about just reading a whole bunch of really good books and meditating. That I love I don't love it. It annoys me to death. The pictures of the meditator where they say, take a meditation class, and there's somebody in the little white and the sun is shining and the cloud and there's like in the grass, it's all beautiful. And it's just, all you have to do is meditate and everything will be fine. You won't ever have a thought of running that car off the road ever again. It just won't happen. Or speaking unkindly when your spouse puts the forks in the wrong place. Again, when you've asked them to put them in a different place 417 times. So that we can bear witness to our own struggles with the same qualities that you're talking about, with patience, with process, with kindness. We bear witness to our own struggles. We bear witness to our own mistakes. I got halfway here tonight and I hadn't given Brianna the questions to give to the Zoom people. I had to drive home and I'm driving back and I'm thinking, they'll forgive me, you know. Oh, cool. The question would be, can I forgive me? Can I come and speak and offer, you know, without being rattled by the fact that I screwed up? I forgot that. The other quote I wanted to read to you, which I've also told you about before, was I read someplace that somebody, one of his biographers, asked Donald Trump if he ever thought about himself, if he ever kind of looked at how he behaved. And he said, if I did, I wouldn't like what I saw. But we know that place too, don't we? You know, we're in a struggle with somebody and we are very, 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 well, speak for yourself, Sharon. I'm very, very, very determined that it's about them. It's not about me. You know, and if they just behaved properly, my life would be fine, you know. And so what he's saying is, I don't want to do the work. And it's hard. And what we see is the result of somebody. There's a quote, I don't know if I can get it quite correctly. There's a quote that, how does it go? The thought, something like the thought becomes the word, and the words become the kind of belief system, and the belief system hardens into character, and then you're stuck. I've actually seen that happen. I used to, when I was a young psychologist, I would work with young interns, medical interns and residents. And then I would run into them years later, 30 years later, and they had become different people. You know, they were hard and kind of, you know, officious. And it's like, you're not the same person I saw 30 years ago. So, it, you know, it hardens over time so that it gets harder and harder and harder to inquire into, because I get so invested in this is who I am, and I can't be vulnerable. I can't, you know, I can't be different. So the invitation is to cultivate with patience and kindness in small ways, so that we are not contributing to hatred and greed and ignorance in the universe. Who was it Jeanne was saying tonight? Prayer matters. Similarly, negative thoughts matter. So can we really do that hard work when it's just me driving along the road or just dealing with forks in my kitchen? Can we do that hard work to see what's needed? Now, this brings up a whole other set of questions. You know, it's like, how do you see what's needed? And that's partly instructions on not following instructions. Mm-hmm. And partly in the quality of investigation that will really bring curiosity to what, you know, how do I approach this in a skillful way? And very often we need the help of other people in order to do that, because we're so locked into our way of thinking. I'll say one more thing and then I'll stop because I'm already over time. I just posted a podcast on my website titled, I Can't Do This, about a time when I couldn't do this. And so it, you know, we all get to these places, and in there I say I needed help. You know, I needed help. I needed somebody to help me see around the edges of my own identification, and indeed in that case of my own trauma. And by the way, just footnote to the footnote, If you have signed up to get notified when something is posted on my website, one of the things that has happened is that the internet ate that. So you have to go back and sign up again. It's sharonbb.org if you're interested.